And now it is my pleasure and honor to invite up Glenn Parry.
Thank you, Reverend Gordon. Thank you. It is an incredible honor and blessing to speak about love, a subject you never speak about. No, to speak about love at the Unity Spiritual Center in Albuquerque. There's some people in your congregation I've known for 30 years, including Todd Lowry, your musical director, Halima Christie, there she is back there, yeah. And my dear beloved Tomoko for 38 years. You got a little bit more. We weren't in New Mexico yet, so. But what an honor and a blessing. Let's begin. Love is the most powerful force in the cosmos. The most powerful force in the cosmos. And it's also the most mysterious force. It's the most mysterious force. It reminds me of something that my buddy Dan Moonhawk Alford spoke about, a memory of his when he was 10 years old, and his father invited him up to his workplace. And his father was a longshoresman. He was working on the California coast among the tall redwoods. And Moonhawk went there, and he spent the morning on a jitney, and they were stacking up logs, and that was great fun for a boy. But then they took their lunch break, and they were overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And Moonhawk, at 10 years old, had never, ever seen the ocean before. So he says to his father, "Dad, that sure is a lot of water out there." And his father says, "Yep, and that's just the top of it." Okay? So Moonhawk liked to tell that story to illustrate the depth of Native American wisdom. He was part Osage and Cherokee, but he felt that Native American wisdom was deep beyond knowing. And I agree with him on that, but I also feel the same way about love. In fact, love is something that it's impossible to fully understand. You know, we have this, I'm putting my arms out like this because if you think about the ocean is measured in fathoms. And how do they measure fathoms? If you put your arms as far apart as you can get, that's a fathom, about 6 feet wide. But the ocean has long been thought of as unfathomable. It's the source of the collective unconscious. You can't really know the ocean completely. You know, and that's what I feel about love. You can't really know it completely. But I do know this. I do know when I feel love, my heart expands. My heart expands, and I feel open. I feel inclusive. I feel like a river. I feel like a river. Anything that comes into my banks, I allow in. And it's joyous. It's absolutely joyous. That's the kind of feeling you get when you feel love. But there's another thing that I know about love, which is that it's always been here and it always will be here. Love is an original vibration. It's a force. It's also like in the Kabbalah, they talk about the Shekinah, the divine feminine presence. Love is a soft and gentle presence. Very soft and gentle, but it can enter your heart when you are open to it. And love has always been here. The ancient Greeks knew this. The philosopher Empedocles, he's in the pre-Socratic time, is speaking about love in a way that came to us as the four-element theory. He was talking about the origin of the very cosmos. And he said that the cosmos was composed of 4 roots, which were mediated by the forces of love and strife. And he named those roots after gods and goddesses: Zeus, Hera, Adonis, Nestes. There were 2 gods, 2 goddesses. But here's the interesting thing. Empedocles understood that the cosmos was not fully formed until strife came into the picture. Originally, there was just the 4 roots and love. Love was what kept the elements together. But then strife comes into the picture. And we actually need strife. See, natives would call this flux. It's like a dynamic vortex. It's what sets the universe spinning, moving, changing. That is what Empedocles said you need. And if you think about it, all of us, we don't like strife when it's happening. Our problems, contentions, difficulties. But that's where our learning is. That's where our learning is. So we really do need strife, as much as it may seem difficult to us. And all of life could be considered a blessing that way. That's what Indigenous people have done. People that were near and dear to me, like Grandfather Leon Secatero, he would pray every morning to the west. He was thankful for the ancestors and for everything that has happened to bring him to this moment in time. Everything that has happened to bring him to this moment in time. That is a radical way of looking at all of life experience as a blessing. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. But love is in the world. If there's one thing that I emphasize in the book, Original Love, the Timeless Source of Wholeness, which is not usually emphasized about love, it's love in nature. I think of love as being everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And I think of the plants, first of all. The plants love us. Indigenous peoples have a word, usually have words for plants that mean those that take care of us. Those that take care of us. And think about it, they do. Plants provide food. Plants provide medicine. And they provide something even more important. You know what they provide? The breath of life itself. So, you know, I've written a book on politics, but there is only one conspiracy that I really believe in. And that's the conspiracy between plants and mammals. And you know why? Because plants breathe out what we breathe in, and we breathe in what they breathe out. We are breathing together with plants, and that is the literal meaning of conspiracy. It comes from conspire, to breathe together, to breathe together. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. And I think of also mountains. Mountains love the valleys. Why is that? Look, on a day like today when the sky is clear. Now look, if you look at the mountains here in New Mexico, you will see that the mountains will attract the clouds. The clouds eventually bring the rains. And where does the rain go? When it rains on the mountain, it flows down into the valleys. The mountains are literally looking after the valleys. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that amazing? You know, so I think of all the waters of the world as actually being in love with each other. In love with each other. I learned this from the Hopi. They spoke about how the waters speak to each other. They're in communication with each other. The waters in the sky are speaking to the underground waters. And the underground waters are speaking to the cloud people, the sky, the water that's held in the sky. And Paula Gunn Allen, who grew up in New Mexico from Cubero Pueblo, told me, if you want to find water in New Mexico, look up, look up. It's there in the sky, and particularly in the summer, that's true. So the underground waters, they're praying, they're pleading to the cloud people to have it rain, especially right now. We've been in a big drought. And when that rain comes down, it's almost like they're receiving the kisses of a long-lost lover, isn't it? The ground is so parched, and they're receiving water, and that water is nourishment. That water is love. Our heart is made of love. Our heart is not that different than the rivers, streams, lakes, the waterways on the earth. We're beating in tune with Mother Earth. I have experienced this, and it's pretty amazing to think about it. So next, I want to share a story, because we said that this program will be Stories to Heal the Earth, Original Love Stories to Heal the Earth. And I want to share a story. It's a very important story called Psyche and Eros. And you probably have all heard this story, or you've all read it, but you may not have had somebody tell it to you. So I'm very, very much going to enjoy sharing it with you. Psyche, and by the way, Jean Houston, dear Jean Houston, who died almost exactly 3 months ago on May 16th, she said that this story is a guiding story for our times. And I'll speak about that a little bit after I tell the story, because I agree with Jean. So when Psyche was born, she was so beautiful that Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, is a little alarmed, offended, maybe a little jealous. And so she tells her son, Eros, to shoot an arrow in Psyche so that she will fall in love with the first man she sees, however homely or vile. And so Eros is dispatched to do that. But in the meantime, and sometimes I say the kind time because we're talking about love, but anyway, in the kind time, Psyche doesn't actually attract any suitors when she comes of age. It seems that her beauty is so powerful that she awes, but she doesn't attract. She doesn't attract. And so her father grows worried. He decides to consult an oracle. This is what the ancient Greeks did. So he consults an oracle, and the oracle comes back with the devastating news that Psyche is destined to be the bride of death. And those ancient Greeks, they believed those oracles, so they dressed Psyche up in funereal clothing. They all got dressed up that way. They did a mourning procession. They walked her up to the top of a mountain, and there Psyche awaited her fate. Maybe they thought she was going to jump over the side or something. They thought she was going to die. That was her destiny. But that is when Eros intervenes and completely changes Psyche's fate. Eros is about to shoot her with one of his arrows, as his mother had said to do, but instead, he's so taken with the beauty of Psyche that he accidentally pricks himself with one of his own arrows, and he falls head over heels in love with Psyche. And that's when her fate completely changes. He swoops in, he takes her away to a palace, which is really a make-believe palace. It's a liminal space between the worlds. And this is done in nighttime. And that very night, Eros comes and makes beautiful love to Psyche. But he tells her, "You must not see me. I will only come at night. You must not see me." Maybe because he's a god and she's only a mortal, I'm not sure. But he says, "You must not see me." And so every night he comes and makes beautiful love to Psyche. Beautiful, beautiful love. And she is falling head over heels in love with Eros. But she's also growing very curious. Who is this perfect lover? Who is he? And her sisters don't help. Her sisters say, you know, that man that's making love to you, he might be a monster. He might be a demon. And really, what he is a daemon. He's a psychopomp of the soul. He's activating Psyche's soul. He's activating her soul, and he's maturing her soul so that she can awaken to her own sacred divinity. That is what Eros is doing. But eventually, Psyche becomes so curious about who her lover looks like that she decides to follow the advice of her sisters, and at one night, she does light the lamp. She lights the lamp. And she sees, first of all, that her sisters were completely wrong, that Psyche is a god. He's beautiful beyond measure. He's perfect. What were her sisters thinking? But the thing is, when she lit the lamp, it's an oil lamp, and a drop of oil fell on Eros' face. So Eros awakens, and Eros is not happy. He's aggrieved. Psyche has violated the one thing that he asked of her. And so even though he loves Psyche, he leaves. And this is when the myth becomes really, really interesting. Because first, Psyche is so totally distraught. So she prays to the gods and goddesses for help to return Eros to her. But the gods and goddesses want to help Psyche, but they don't want to offend Aphrodite. So they help her in little ways, but they do not return Eros to her. But then that's when Aphrodite intervenes, and Aphrodite assigns four tasks, which I've taken poetic license in the book, Original Love. I call them 4 labors of love, because there really are labors of love. And so the first task is she's supposed to separate a giant pile of seeds in an appointed hour. And there's no way that Psyche can separate all these seeds in this much time. So she prays, and ant nation comes. Ant nation comes, and ants separate the pile of seeds in the appointed time, and so she succeeds. In the second task, she is asked to gather the fleece from battering rams who live down by the river. How is she going to do that? Because the rams, if you confront them, they're gonna fight you back. So she goes to the river, and a reed speaks to her. A reed comes out from the river bed all the way up and speaks to her and says, "You must go in the dark of night, and where the rams have brushed up against the bushes and trees, that's where you will gather the fleece without ever confronting them." And so she does, and she succeeds. So now Aphrodite is becoming impressed with Psyche, so she gives her the most difficult task yet. She is told that she has to gather the waters of life that live on the highest mountain in the land and flow all the way into the underworld. And they're guarded by dragons. She must gather these waters of life in this vessel they provide her and bring that back. How on earth is she going to do that? If she could even walk that far, how is she going to get past the dragons? So she prays hard, she prays, and she keeps praying and keeps praying. And then Zeus sends an eagle. And the eagle announces itself and says, "I can fly even higher than the gods and goddesses fly. I will help you with this task. I will take the sacred vessel in my talons. I will fly between the dragons. I will gather the water and return." And he does. So she succeeds. Now the fourth task, the most difficult task, is she has to go to the underworld to gather the beauty ointment of Persephone, the goddess of the underworld. How is she going to do that? She doesn't even know where the gates to the underworld are. She has no idea. And if she ever found the underworld, she wouldn't know how to enter. And if she entered, she wouldn't know how to find Persephone. So she's completely distraught. She climbs a tower, and if you've seen the movie Vertigo, she's about to hurl herself off the tower to commit suicide until the tower itself speaks to her. And the tower tells her exactly what she must do. The tower tells her where the gates to the underworld are. The tower tells her, you must gather 2 morsels of bread, one in each hand. You must put 2 coins in your mouth. And then go to and now here's where you go. And the gates are guarded by a 3-headed dog, Cerberus. And before the gates, you'll see some women weaving the web of fate. You'll see a paraplegic man who's going to beg for help. You must ignore them. You must go straight to the 3-headed dog, Cerberus, and give 1 morsel of bread. The 3 heads will argue over the morsel, and you can enter. And you save the other morsel for when you exit. The 3 heads will argue again, and you can exit. You give 1 coin to the ferryman on the way in, and 1 coin on the way out. And that's how you will get in. And then you will find Persephone, and you will ask her, don't stay for dinner. Don't stay for dinner. Stay focused. Get the jar of ointment and come back. And she does. She succeeds in every single thing except the tower told her to never, ever, ever open the jar of ointment. And that's where her curiosity and perhaps her vanity got the better of her. And she does open the jar. And she falls into a death sleep like Sleeping Beauty or Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. But that's when Eros comes back. Eros intervenes. Eros cannot stand to see his beloved die. And so he comes back and he says to Psyche, I am going to take you to Mount Olympus. I'm going to ask for your hand in marriage, and I'm going to make you a goddess. And he does. He takes her to Mount Olympus. He asks for her hand in marriage. She becomes the goddess of soul. And she's held that title ever since, at least until Aretha Franklin came around. So this is it. And okay, so that is the story of Psyche and Eros. I really want to share that story. It's really an important story. And I'm not going to tell too much about this story because the thing about stories is they reach people on different levels, and however it reaches you, that is an incredible blessing. If you dream about it, great. But I think Jean was right when she said it was the guiding story for our times. And I think one of the most important reasons is that Psyche represents us all. She's partly the divine feminine power, but she's also the masculine power. Remember the parts of the myth where she has to walk past the women weaving the web of fate and the guy that's paraplegic, because she has to stay focused in almost a very masculine way to accomplish a task. So she has to use both her feminine and her masculine sides to succeed. But the other thing is, she uses the entirety of the natural world. She calls upon the allies in the natural world. This is very similar to tales like Scarface in the Blackfeet and the Haudenosaunee tale of Sky Woman falling. You call on the allies in the natural world. And that's how she succeeds. And I think more than ever now, we need to understand that love is everywhere and it's in nature, And we need to love the natural world so much that we will be moved to protect her. We will be moved to protect Mother Earth. Because if we don't do that, we're in trouble, because we are ultimately the light, air, water, and earth. All of us. All of us are that. And I want to conclude by saying a poem from Rumi. Rumi, a person who really felt love deeply within him, felt the beloved. And he writes a poem called Opening the Love Window. And he says, at night I open the window and ask the moon to come and press its face against mine. Breathe into me, close the language door, and open the love window. The moon won't use the door, only the window. And when you do that, when you embrace the moon, when you feel that love, all of everything becomes transmuted into love. And you begin to feel your heart expand out further, further, further. And you feel, just like the songs you've been singing, you feel not love in this room, love in this town, love in this state, love in this country, love in this world, love in this cosmos. All of it feels like love. And that's very, very beautiful. So thank you very much. It's an honor and blessing to speak to you. And may your congregation always be blessed with deep love, deep respect for as long as you live. Thank you so much. Blessings. Okay.